That's Mike from TechBB. And common question that I get all the time is, what is a good backup gun? And you know, it's happened to all of us. The worst case scenario, you know, you show up to a field, you know, you pay your $20 or $30 entry, you buy your case of paint, which costs a fortune, you got all dressed out, everything's ready to go, and then you go to the chronograph, you're ready to play, and your gun doesn't work, okay? Backup guns, I mean, backup guns, here's the biggest thing about backup guns, is you need to think to yourself, what exactly are you going to be using it for, okay? If you're in a NPPL team or a PSP team, or you're playing a lot of tournaments, okay, your standard for a backup gun is going to be pretty damn high, okay? Like for me, you know, I had a fluke thing happen to my mark. One of the first times I've ever had a bob long gun go down on me, okay? We plugged it into the airfill station. The field never purged the water out of their air lines. Plugged it in, hit the thing, filled the freaking tank up with water, went to chronograph it, and water was coming out of my grip frame, okay? And luckily, you know, bob long, thank God, knock on wood. The gun never, you know, I had to clean it out. It smells like pond water now, but the gun still shoots amazing. But backup guns, I found that with you know, going and buying a backup gun, actually the best backup gun you can have is to not need one. And some of the ways that you can go about not needing one is with this little guy right here, okay? One of the biggest things that I've seen that can just prevent so many problems is by owning a chronograph at your house, okay? If you're at your house and you take your gun, you know, take your gun apart and put it back together, and then, you know, the night before you're trying to shoot it into the darkness to see how the gun is shooting, and it doesn't shoot well, but you can't tell. The chronograph is going to tell you if your gun is shooting properly or not, okay? If you go up, you take your gun completely apart, and you go up there and you shoot it, and you see on the chronograph that it's registering 170 feet per second, okay? You know there's something wrong with your gun, and you're at your house in a nice, clean environment where you can continue to take it apart. A chronograph, I swear to God, guys, I swear to God, the chronograph is by far one of the best investments you will ever make. It will save you so much time, so much hassle at the field, because you will know before you even get out to the field, does your battery need to be changed? Maybe that's why your velocity is low. Maybe you know, there's an O-ring, something, you know, install the wrong O-ring and your RAM is dragging, so you're not getting the velocity that you need to. Okay, you can diagnose the problems when you're at home, in the air conditioning, with your computer access to download the manual. You got all your parts, you got a nice wide open workspace. The chronograph is one of the best things I would suggest buying before you get a backup gun. Something else too before you get a backup gun, and we're going on the same premise that the best backup gun is a good primary gun, is, okay, let's say for instance you buy a cheap gun. So let's say you buy a Spider, okay, for let's say 150 bucks, okay, and then you want a backup gun to that. So you go and buy I don't know, let's say a BT4 or an Alpha Black or something like that for $100, okay, as a backup gun. Well, if you add those two together between your elbows and your feed necks and tax and shipping and all this other stuff, okay, you're already approaching, you know, $2 and change, okay? You can just go get yourself a proto rail for that price and never have to worry about having a backup gun. So instead of skimping on the first gun and then having to go buy a backup gun, why don't you just sell your first gun, save up all that money you were going to spend, and go get a reliable marker to begin with. Another thing we can talk about too is with your primary gun. Now, once you get a decent primary gun, and I've covered some of my favorite guns, you know, starting at like, you know, 150 bucks. Vibe's not too bad. $200 proto, the SLG. 250 bucks. 270 is the PMR, the Proto Matrix rail. Getting above that, I start liking the, you know, Dangerous Power fusions. You know, the Mini's not a bad marker as long as you don't have one that's kind of flaky. You know, Dangerous Power makes really good. Once you start getting to the $500 range, the Bob Long guns, $600 range, you know, the E-Techs are pretty solid Bob Long guns. So there's a lot of things that you can get. You know, you just got to make really good choices when you first go and buy a gun. Now, let's say for instance you have a gun. The gun works great and you still have some money burning a hole in your pocket. Now you need to consider, what are you going to actually buy the backup gun for, okay? I know for me, I always have a couple guns laying around for my friends when they want to go play, okay? I started with basically a rental gun and it sucked, you know? So when my friends want to go play, I have a gun just for them, okay? And depending on whatever my budget is, I let them shoot it. I believe right now I'm letting them use a hybrid shocker, or sometimes I'll let them use a Vice or something like that. So the biggest thing you need to do when considering a backup gun is, one, figure out what you're going to be using it for. Okay, is it for your primary gun? You're afraid your primary gun is going down? Well, before you buy that, buy a chronograph and get yourself a good primary gun. That's going to prevent you from ever even needing a backup gun. If you need one for friends and stuff like that, that's cool. But honestly, a good toolkit like this one with your instruction manual inside there, with all of the O-rings that came in your O-ring kit neatly organized. You can go and get a fishing organizer like this for maybe $10 at Walmart or at a fishing supply store, Dick's Sporting Goods, and put all of your O-rings and all of your screws and all of your spare parts and neatly organize it. That way you're not digging for a Ziploc bag and stuff like that. I talked to you guys about using a pod. Take it, put it all in a Ziploc bag, stuff it in a pod, put it in your gear bag, call it it's your gear bag. But I've seen, in my experience of playing, I've seen loaders go down more than I've seen guns go down. If guns are maintained properly, they very rarely go down. But I have seen loaders go down for flaky reasons. I mean, I've had people run by and bunker me inside of my loader and just destroy my catch cup, destroy the internals of the loader. So a good backup loader is also something to have in case you go and dive into a bunker and paint gets all on the inside and stuff like that. So a good backup loader is also a good investment to get. But before you go and consider a backup gun, the biggest thing you need to consider is, one, what are you going to use it for? Or do you need it as a backup to your primer? Well, in that case, I'd probably sell it and just go buy a better primary gun, get a good O-ring kit, get yourself a chronograph, and then probably I'd buy yourself an extra loader, because a loader is going to be a better investment than another gun. Most of the time, you're going to break the feed neck on your loader before you're going to break your gun. So hopefully this clears up some questions about a good backup gun. Me, do I ever have a backup gun? No. When I go out to the field, I have my primary gun. I've got my O-ring kit. I chronoed my gun the night before. I never have any issues at the field. And when I do, I mean, how can you prevent water from getting into your gun? I just so happen to be the first person that filled up that morning. But thanks for tuning in. 6,000 plus subscribers, guys. Doing a good job. Thanks again.